Good evening, and welcome to our discussion this evening. Tonight we delve into a particularly sensitive and pertinent question. Should employers consider mental health history when making hiring decisions? It's a topic that touches upon issues of privacy, discrimination, workplace safety, and individual well-being. Joining us are three distinguished experts: Dr. Ben Carter, an occupational psychologist, Ms. Aisha Khan, a human rights lawyer, and Ms. Tomoko Sato, an HR consultant. Each brings a distinct and valuable perspective to this complex issue. We'll begin with opening statements. Dr. Carter, could you please start us off?
Thank you, Samira. The question of considering mental health history in a hiring is indeed fraught with complexity. I want to acknowledge upfront the inherent risks of discrimination. These are significant and must be addressed with utmost seriousness. However, I would argue against an outright ban on any consideration, particularly in very specific, high-consequence roles where public or individual safety is paramount. Think, for example, of airline pilots or emergency surgeons. In such roles, a voluntary and confidential discussion about relevant health aspects, including current mental fitness for duty, might be part of a holistic assessment. This must be handled with strict safeguards, focusing squarely on fitness for duty and current capability, not on a past diagnosis as an automatic barrier to employment. Furthermore, voluntary disclosure by a candidate, if their aim is to establish necessary support systems from the outset, could be viewed positively, fostering an environment of proactive care. It's crucial to differentiate between past conditions, which may be fully resolved or well managed, and an individual's current capabilities. Many people with a history of mental health challenges can and do thrive with appropriate support and understanding.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Ms. Khan, your perspective, please.
Thank you. My position on this matter is unequivocal. Employers must not consider an individual's mental health history in their hiring decisions under any circumstances. The risks associated with doing so are far too great and carry severe consequences. We are talking about inevitable discrimination, whether conscious or unconscious, which is incredibly difficult to root out once such information is known. Furthermore, inquiring into mental health history constitutes a serious breach of an individual's fundamental right to privacy. This information is deeply personal and often irrelevant to their ability to perform a job. Considering such history also reinforces damaging societal stigmas surrounding mental health, discouraging individuals from being open, and potentially even from seeking necessary help for fear of future career repercussions. A past mental health condition is simply not a reliable indicator of current or future job performance. Many individuals manage their conditions effectively and lead highly productive professional lives. Hiring decisions must be based solely on objective criteria: an applicant's skills, their qualifications, their experience, and their demonstrable ability to perform the essential functions of the job in question. Introducing mental health history fundamentally corrupts this merit-based process.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Ms. Sato, from an HR and legal standpoint, what are your thoughts? From an HR and practical legal perspective, the stance is generally very clear. Inquiring about mental health history before a conditional job offer is made is often illegal in many jurisdictions. Laws such as the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA in the US, or the Equality Act in the UK provide significant protections. These frameworks typically classify mental health conditions as a form of disability. Therefore, any questions asked by employers during the recruitment process must be strictly job-related and non-discriminatory. The focus must always be on an applicant's ability to perform the essential functions of the position, with or without reasonable accommodation. As HR professionals, we advocate for ethical and inclusive recruitment processes that assess all candidates fairly, based on their merits and capabilities. Introducing questions about mental health history undermines this fundamental principle of fairness and equity. Discussions about mental health, if they are to happen, are far more appropriate post-hire. This should occur within a culture of trust and support, primarily for the purpose of discussing and implementing reasonable accommodations to help the employee succeed in their role, not as a screening tool. Thank you all for those insightful opening statements. Dr. Carter, Ms. Khan has strongly underscored the high risk of discrimination if employers were to consider mental health, even in the, quote, safety-critical roles or through the voluntary disclosure you mentioned. What concrete enforceable safeguards could genuinely prevent this from leading to biased outcomes?
Crucial safeguards would include independent medical fitness panels for any assessments, not line managers. Criteria for safety-critical roles must be transparent, evidence-based, and narrowly defined. Furthermore, robust and easily accessible appeals processes are vital. Mandatory unconscious bias training for everyone involved in such specific hiring decisions would also be essential to mitigate prejudice.
Ms. Khan, Dr. Carter points to public safety and an individual's well-being in very specific high-risk roles, like an airline pilot. Is there truly no scenario where some form of ethically managed health disclosure, focusing strictly on current fitness rather than past history, might be warranted to ensure safety?
Current functional capacity can be effectively assessed without demanding disclosure of past diagnoses. Objective, standardized fitness for duty evaluations, if essential for a role, should focus solely on present ability. The fundamental problem is that the risk of such historical information being misused, leading to bias or deterring people from seeking help, remains unacceptably high, regardless of proposed safeguards.
Ms. Sato, you mentioned that inquiries must be job-related. Can employers ask about a candidate's ability to handle, for instance, high-stress situations, or meet tight deadlines if these are undeniably essential job functions? How can this be done effectively without improperly probing into an applicant's mental health history or making them feel they need to disclose a condition? Absolutely. Employers can assess the ability to handle job-related stressors using behavioral questions like, describe a time you managed a high-pressure project effectively. This focuses on past behavior and skills. The inquiry is about what the candidate can do and how they approach such challenges, not about any underlying health conditions or diagnoses. It is performance-based. It's vital that these questions are job-relevant, consistently applied to all applicants, and don't stray into asking about personal health. Thank you. Dr. Carter, Ms. Khan, would either of you like to offer a brief comment on what's been said so far, perhaps regarding the nature of disclosure, or how job-related questions are framed?
I just reiterate that my suggestion of voluntary disclosure is aimed at facilitating support, not scrutiny. If an individual feels comfortable sharing to ensure they receive necessary accommodations, it should be a safe avenue.
While the intention for support is good, the line between voluntary and subtly expected disclosure can become blurred. Even well-meaning systems can inadvertently pressure individuals or lead to biased perceptions once information is shared.
Let's shift towards creating supportive structures within organizations. Ms. Sato, what would you identify as 2 or 3 pivotal best practices for employers to cultivate a genuinely mental health-friendly workplace? Specifically, how can they ensure employees feel safe and empowered to seek accommodations if they need them, without fear of negative consequences? Visible leadership commitment is key. Leaders must champion mental health openly. Clear, confidential processes for requesting reasonable accommodations are also essential, ensuring employees know how and trust the system. Furthermore, investing in robust employee assistance programs, EAPs, and providing thorough mental health awareness and empathetic leadership training for all managers is vital for fostering a supportive environment. Dr. Carter, you suggested that voluntary disclosure to access support could be a positive step. If an employee does choose this path, what specific mechanisms can ensure this sensitive information is effectively firewalled? How can we guarantee it doesn't inadvertently hinder their career progression or lead to them being unfairly overlooked for challenging roles or promotions in the future?
Strict data privacy is paramount. Health information should be accessible only to occupational health or designated HR, not line managers. This ensures confidentiality. Performance evaluations must be based solely on objective, job-related criteria with no link to health disclosures. A strong culture of trust and anti-stigma, backed by clear non-discrimination policies, is also essential to prevent career hindrance.
Ms. Khan, if any consideration of mental health history is strictly off-limits during the hiring phase, how can employers responsibly ensure they aren't inadvertently placing individuals in roles that might exacerbate an undisclosed condition? This could potentially harm the employee's well-being. Where does the employer's duty of care begin and end in such a scenario if they have no prior knowledge?
The employer's primary duty of care involves accurately describing job demands, including stressors, and fostering a work environment that is safe and supportive for everyone. This minimizes risks for all. It is not about screening for past issues. Employees also assess job fit. The focus should be on creating healthy work conditions, which benefits all staff, rather than trying to predict individual reactions based on past health.
We're nearing the end of our discussion. I'd like to ask each of you for a brief closing statement summarizing your key takeaways. Dr. Carter, please begin.
Thank you. I want to reiterate my call for a nuanced approach. This isn't about advocating for broad, indiscriminate screening of mental health history, which carries clear risks. Rather, it's about allowing for careful, highly ethical consideration in very specific, rigorously defined safety-critical roles, always prioritizing current fitness for duty. It's also about supporting voluntary, employee-led disclosures made explicitly for the purpose of securing necessary support and accommodations to thrive in the workplace. We must move beyond stigma towards responsible, supportive management of all aspects of health within the workplace, underpinned by robust guidelines, strong ethical frameworks, and comprehensive safeguards to protect individuals.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Ms. Khan, your closing thoughts.
I must reaffirm my strong opposition to employers considering mental health history in hiring. The potential for discrimination, privacy violations, and the reinforcement of stigma is simply unacceptable and outweighs any purported benefits. Hiring decisions must be anchored strictly in merit, focusing on an individual's skills, qualifications, experience, and their proven ability to perform the job's essential functions effectively. Instead of seeking ways to assess past mental health, we need stronger legal protections and more proactive, concerted efforts from employers to build genuinely inclusive, equitable, and supportive workplaces where everyone can flourish.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. And finally, Ms. Sato, your concluding remarks. My key message is the critical importance of adhering to legal frameworks and ethical best practices in hiring. These protect both applicants and employers. Proactive strategies are essential, building supportive, inclusive cultures, providing thorough manager training on mental health, and establishing clear, accessible processes for reasonable accommodations. The ultimate aim is a workplace where mental health receives the same understanding and support as physical health, ensuring it's never a barrier to employment or success. This fosters a healthier environment for everyone. Dr. Carter, Ms. Khan, and Ms. Sato, thank you for your invaluable insights on this complex topic tonight. You've highlighted the difficult balance between non-discrimination, privacy, support, and workplace needs. It is indeed a challenging area. We encourage our audience to reflect further on these important issues. Good evening.